Hey friends, I'm Mike Mahoney here in my own shop today to talk about my new hollowing tool that Carter and Sons has made for me to add to my signature line of tools. One of you lucky viewers are going to have the ability to win this vessel when I finished it. Today I'm going to show you each component of the tool and how it works and what it does for us. Let's take a closer look at the kit. The kit could be purchased all as one set, or it could be bought in individual pieces. To start with, let's take a look. This is the brace. Now, the brace is going to hold the tool here, and the brace basically takes all the force of the cut. Normally when we do hollowing, whatever the distance is from your cutting edge, you need 10 times that length behind the tool, and this brace definitely takes all that away. Now, another part of the tool, this boring bar here, and this is called the workhorse. This is going to do all the hollowing where we can need a straight line to it. The other part here is the swan neck, and the swan neck will get us around the corner of the hollow form that we're doing. And that's pretty much the main components. So let's talk about the cutters that go onto the tool. We have a swan neck, a radius cutter, and then a straight swivel cutter that is probably going to be the most used, and it's very aggressive and it holds out a lot of wood at one time. And of course, we're providing a tool holder. We're going to put those radius scrapers and the straight scraper right on this, and it'll make it a lot easier to sharpen. I've got this nice piece of Claro walnut here we're going to make our hollow form from. I'm going to mount it here with a screw center. There's the screw. Put the tailstock up, make a pleasing shape, and then we'll hollow it. So I've got the pleasing shape that I like, and it's not always easy to make a pleasing shape, but before you do any hollowing, make sure that shape is exactly the way you want it, because there's no going back once you start hollowing. It's a good practice. So first things first is I'm going to cut a little groove in here on the top, and then I'm going to throw a drill bit all the way to the finished depth, which is probably going to be about 3/8 inch from the bottom of the wood here. That's a good idea to have. And then we're going to take the workhorse with the straight cutting scraper here, and we're going to hollow all the way down to the bottom and get that hole out of the dead center. Then we're going to start creeping and doing more of an angle to get more wood out. Now make sure we slow up our speed when we throw our drill bit in. So what I just did is I threw that drill bit in to about 3/8 of an inch from it going all the way through. So I was throwing it in after I cut a nice little groove to fit it into, because you don't want this getting loose. You're also welcome to put it in your tailstock and drive it in that way. I've done so many of those, that's just a waste of time for me. So once I got in a certain distance, I turned everything off, I dropped the drill right over the surface to the depth that I want, and then I marked it here with the top of my thumb, and that's the distance. Now if you're not comfortable with that, use a piece of masking tape to mark that, and then you would know where to stop. So when we're doing hollow forms, it's kind of a blind form of turning, and we're going to throw a scraper blade deep into that form, and we've got to really concentrate on where we are as we work, and that's important. I would turn off all the music in your shop and kind of listen to the acoustics of the wood. And then of course, always imagine with your mind's eye as that tool's going in, don't let it disappear per se, kind of imagine the depth of it. And eventually it'll all become second nature. And that's truly what craft is learning how to use these tools without having to do a lot of measuring. So now I'm going to plunge this tool. I'm going to actually set my wall thickness to about 1/4 of an inch here, and then I'm just going to grind all that wood out with my workhorse boring bar here. So as I work, the tool rest height is going to be cutting at center. So I want the tip of the tool to cut at center, but you also will notice my tool is at a downward angle. I'll overemphasize that. So it's kind of at a downward plunge. That way it doesn't catch. So I've done quite a bit of hollowing right now. When we do these, always make sure you have more wood down at the bottom than you have at the top. We always hollow from the top to the bottom. So I've got a good 1.25 inches down here, maybe 1/2 inch here, and about 3/8 here. So now I'm going to work from the top to the bottom. I'm going to go use my swan neck set up for that, and then we'll show you how that works. So while I'm switching tools now, I'm going to go to the swan neck, and I'm going to use the straight cutter still. It's still going to do the majority of everything that I do. All these tools are stainless steel, 3/4 inch. The cutters are M42, so they're going to be really sharp and stay sharp for a long time. And the reason I chose this particular wood is because it's beautiful. It's got all kinds of swirly grains in it, some marbling here that would be typical of this species of walnut. So the swan tool is unique. We've got this obvious bend here. While we work, we're going to work with the tool rest on the straight part of the tool back. We won't put the tool rest up in this area here at all. So we're going to back up the tool rest a little bit here, and then we can work into it. Now also, this swivel is important. Depending on your form, and this is a very simple form, if it's really complicated and maybe it's really looped like that, you might have to swivel this over more. You'll know it as you work with it. But for this particular form, it would barely be any swivel to it, just kind of straight on. And you'll know that as you work, what the right angle is. Because if it's not cutting, not getting around the corner, then you just make adjustments here. So while I'm working, I'm keeping the hollow form moist with a little spray mist of water. And what that does is keep it from checking. On these hot summer days like it is here today, I always want to keep that cool and wet. And every 5 minutes, give it a little bit of spray and you'll be good to go. So here we are back to the gooseneck. My tool rest is far back from the form. I'm probably going to get it almost all the way down to my finished wall thickness. Then we're going to put on a teardrop cutter, and that will smooth the interior of the walls. If you're really involved with making well-crafted hollow forms like this, you're going to want to make the interiors just as smooth as the exteriors. So I've switched to the radius cutter here. It comes with 3 cutters, and this is the teardrop, and the teardrop's a little sharper and it would be a little bit more aggressive. And since I've done a pretty good job of thinning the walls now, I'm just going to use this teardrop scraper. And what that's going to do is any uneven spots in there, maybe some tool marks from the sharper radius cutter that we used earlier, this was going to lay the interior wall nice and smooth. And also, while we work with this form, keep it clean with compressed air, so get all the stuff out of it so you can hear the acoustics of the tool working in there. That'll tell you a lot about where you are wall thickness wise. I'm sure you notice if you've been watching the acoustic of this is sounding really thin, and so I'm a little uncomfortable with keeping the process going. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark the piece and put it right back in the exact same spot in the chuck, but I'm going to take it off the chuck and feel the weight of it, make sure all the chips are out of the inside, just kind of, so, and when I pick that up, I can definitely feel that there's a lot of weight in the base. So either I haven't gone deep enough or I just need to take a little bit more wood off the sides here. But I've measured it, so I've got about a 1/4 inch more to go depth-wise, and then I think I'll be more satisfied with the process. So at some point we're going to have to sharpen these cutters, and Carter and Son's made this nifty little jig to make that happen. Now before I went to the grinder, I would use like a 300 grit sharpening card, and I would just go over the radius of all that, and then maybe after 4 or 5 of those I would go over to the grinder and put a totally new fresh edge on that. So let's go to the grinder and check it out. So basically each cutter comes with a threaded screw, and you're going to screw that down on there, tighten it, and then we're going to head over to the grinder here and set our platform at 12 degrees. And then it's just a matter of taking that radius all the way around to give us a fresh edge. Well, the hollowing process is finished, and I've gotten the wall thickness is about a 1/4 inch all the way through. The next steps are to sand this piece. I'll sand that to 600 grit. Then I'm going to flip this around and make a much smaller base and remove all that tenon surface. After that, I'm going to let it dry in a paper sack for about 3 or 4 days, and then I'll put a polymerizing oil on it, which will make the grain pop. And then when that dries, another 24 hours later, I'm going to spray lacquer it and then kind of scrub the surface, make kind of a matted finish. And now, one of you lucky viewers are going to have the ability to win this vessel when I finished it. All you have to do is subscribe to the channel and then write a comment and tell me what your favorite wood to turn is. Thanks for watching, everybody. If you're interested in the new Signature Hollowing System, they're available at carterandsontoolworks.com. See you on the turn and trail.